You ate the donut now. It's like Erev Yom Tov.
Yeah, Yaitse donut and kugel, both of them to be Yaitse, right? Yeah, the donuts are in honor. There's the last time I went to Rabbi Engel's birthday was his bar mitzvah. He's not a Hasidic guy who's going to have a birthday fabrengen, and I can't get him to come to fabrengen for a birthday. But you'll have to give brachas on the birthday. But the donuts are in honor of your birthday, in honor of Hanukkah, in honor of. I'm just going to announce the sponsors, right? Also from the neighborhood, right?
Why doesn't he come anymore? Is he out of town?
Yeah. He's at the thing.
Well, anyways.
So the we don't sponsor the shear, we sponsor the kugel and the donuts and the broadcast sponsored by Chaim Tzvi. My thing. If you want to sponsor the shear, it's minimum 6 figures. Let me tell you. I'm not giving that away. The broadcast I'll give away. The Chaim Tzvi and Pesi Leibovich in honor of the birth of their granddaughter, Halal Tzivia, was born in Eretz Yisrael, and Lein Lishmas's father, you remember him from the neighborhood, right? Yisroel Moshe, Meir, who's still within the year. I want to thank Rabbi Engel for coming in the snow and the sleet.
He left the chasana.
Yeah.
Whose wedding was tonight? Oh, right. Wow.
Was it big?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Lady for having me. Go back many, many years, and it's always a pleasure to be here. I've been in Parsha Vayiashev a couple times already, so I gotta watch what I say. I don't want to say over the things that I said already.
And it's recorded, you know.
Yeah. I want to start off something I heard from Rabbi Shmulevitz a couple years ago. Spoke on Shabbos. You know, you hear a Rav speaking on Shabbos, you can't write it down, so you forget. But somehow I remember this one. Engel told us Yaakov Yosef and Shas Shoshana Hayrei Secha Vatzayim V'Naz Bnei Bulavs Bnei Zol P'Nashei Aviv Vayavei Yosef Estibasim Alaviyam. So 3 questions. First of all, why does it say that he was Nars Bnei Bulavs Bnei Zilpa? It's very nice, but what do we care? So Rashi has pshat, but why does it have to say it for? Why does it say Vayavei and he brought? It should have said Vayisaper Yosef Estibasim Alaviyam. Tell them the story. What's Vayavei? And why does it say Avihem if it says in the same pasuk, Mishay Aviv? Why does it change to Avihem? This is on a Fika Yom. It says there's 3 criteria when you're telling over something to somebody that it shouldn't be considered lashon hara. First of all, it can't be that the person will listen to you. Like, first you have to try to speak to the person himself. If you know that he won't listen to you, then okay, then you can tell somebody else because you want the person to change. That's why it says, Yosef knew that the brothers looked at him askance, like that he's consorting with the maid sons. It wasn't they weren't on the same wavelength. So the second thing that you need to do is you can't embellish the story. When you say over the story, you can't add your own details. You have to say over exactly what happened. Vayisaper, when he says Vayisaper, you think of the Torah when it says Vayisaper. Vayisaper, Evan, Rivka, is called, right? Everything that happened. So he told them a story. And he adds in his own things, he embellishes. But here was Vayavei Yosef, he brought it the way it was. He didn't add anything to it. And finally, he says, Alavihem, doesn't say Alaviv. He wasn't trying to get something out of it. He wasn't trying to, there wasn't anything for him. He brought it to Avihem. It says something. I wanted to point out also that we see an interesting phenomenon here. The Bnei Yehuda, throughout Tanakh, had a bracha that they lived a long life, and they also were moiled at a very young age.
Who did?
Bnei Yehuda.
Obviously not Aaron Noina, but you're saying further generations.
So Aaron Noina, let's say Aaron Noina. How old were they? This whole Ma'aseh, the whole thing that happened when he married Bashua and the whole thing, that whole thing took place in 22 years. Now think about this. Yehuda gets married to Bashua. He has heir. The heir's 5. He marries her off to Tamar. Heir dies. He marries Einan. So that's another year. That's 6. Einan dies, and then Shayla's waiting for Shayla to get older. That's 7, right? Now, then he marries Tamar, and they have Peretz and Zerach. parents has chesed and chomel before they go to Mitzrayim. Think about that, right? Yes, chesed and chomel, right? So how many years passed? The whole thing was 22 years. So you see that they gave birth at a very young age. Now this parent continues. Kalev ben Yefuna. Kalev ben Yefuna was how old when he was a Mirago? He tells us in Sefer Yeshua, when I went to be a Mirago. I was 40 years old, right? And now he's 85, you were saying. Now,
It was a market when he went to, with the Mirag.
with the Mirago, he's
Yeah,
40 years
yeah.
old. Now we know,
Let's go back. How do we know Aaron was 5 years old? when he-
okay, that's all it is, And again, if you do the math, like there's 22 years.
I understand that. I
You have
get
to
that
get
one. I
to,
understand.
yeah, it's Kabbalah we have, he was 5 years old. It's fine, it's just, Ad Yigdal Shalom Yigdal.
Yeah, how much old is he
He's
gonna be? Was
five,
he,
he's gonna be 5, like, wow. But, so Kalev's son is who? So who's Kalev married, first of all? Kalev marries Miriam, right, and they have Kor. Kor has Uri, and Uri has Tzal ben Uri ben Kor. How old was Tzal when he built the Mishkan? It says Ish, so he was 13. He was 13 when he built the Mishkan the first year in the Midbar. Kalev is a Miracle the second year in the Midbar. That means Kalev is 40. How old is Tzal? 14. What's the difference in age between them? 26 years. He's as elder as Adam. Right? Tzal ben Uri ben Kor ben Kalev. That means
What generation?
each one had a child when he was 8 years old. Okay? Now this happens again.
so we call, let's say, Kalev marries Miriam when he's 8 also?
Yes. And how old Miriam was?
Miriam was
Miriam was like
5.
57.
Miriam was 57.
Miriam was 57.
That's some shit of prices. I was-
And who did Kalev marry after Miriam died?
Mary's, what's her name?
This year. Also much older, right?
He marries the spy. What's his name? Doesn't he marry the,
Kalev married this year.
this year he doesn't marry Rachel? Yeah.
True married Rush.
Sure, Miriam.
Okay, we see the same pattern again. Shlomo HaMelech's elder Zayda was Achitofel. Achitofel was the advisor of Dovid. How old was Achitofel when he committed suicide? He was 33. Right? So you have Achitofel. You have his son, what was his name again? Anyway, I don't forget his name, but his granddaughter was Vayiashev. Right? Vayiashev, wife Shlomo. He's 33, so again, 26. Now they lived a long life also. What do you see lived a long life? The whole story of Rus. You have Elimelech, Salmon, Aviv Shalnami, and who's the other son? The Elimelech, Salmon, Pliny Almoini, and then
My
the
daughter here.
right. So these 4 were whose children? Nachshon and Aminadab. So you make a cheshbon, they're about 300 years old. These people lived a long life. Yishai lived to 400, right? The Bnei Yehuda were benched by Hashem. They got married early, had children early, and lived long life. Just pointing that out. Okay, why was Yosef Zeicha to be the Sitnai Shel Esav? Why was he? What's up with Yosef was the Sitnai Shel Esav? It says V'hoya Beis Yaakov Eish, Ubeis Yosef Lahava, Ubeis Esav Lakash. So the Gemara says you need Lahava for the Eish to work, but Eish, what's that? Achad Yitzchak. Okay. We also find that Binyamin was Sitnai Shel Esav, right? Binyamin's children were who? He had Shaul, he had Esther. These are people that the Shaul killed Amalek, Esther took care of Haman, right? Mordechai and Esther. So what's up is that why were Yosef and Binyamin Zeich to be the Sitnai Shel Esav? The teretz is because I saw this that Rachel and Leah both refused to marry Esau. They both were supposed to marry Esau and they both refused. Many years ago, I was asked to speak at a kiddush in Chavus mine, and Haki Hamler was there. It was his granddaughter. Said this over it? No. So I spoke and I said over, I asked the kasha, it says that Beinei Leah Rakos. Why were they soft? What does Rashi say? She was beicha, she shouldn't fall to the girl of Esau. Why? Because the passerby was saying, oh, let's see, Rivka has two sons. Laban has two daughters, Gedel the Gadol and the Katana cousins. What does Leah care what people are saying? Well, they're saying it, so what? So that means she can fault the girl of Asa. What's a shot? So say no, I don't care what you say, I'm not marrying him. The teretz, as I said, it seems from here that Leah cried because people said she's matim for Asa. Because she yarshin some of the midas of her father. Haki Hela says, how dare you say that? You can't say that about Leah. I think I saw it somewhere. Okay. Just remember, that was interesting. I stopped speaking after that. But I still think it's a shot that Leah worked on herself because Leah knew that people saying she's for Asa because she's for Asa.
How long ago did Hockey Hinder
It was about, I was still in Montreal then, so it was about 20 years ago.
find out the source?
No,
Right now?
I didn't find out stuff. Still looking. Huh? Okay, but now people don't know this, but Rachel also was going to follow the girl of Shaisa. Rashi brings us down in Parsha Vayiashev. We say this on the first day of Rosh Hashanah in Musaf. Those who say the Yitzros. That when Esav saw, get the Lashon, it's when the Advain saw that Rachel was childless, he was going to marry. He wanted to marry Rachel. She cried and she begged Hashem, please, I don't want to fall to Esav.
How is he going to marry her based on?
Because Yaakov's going to divorce her because she's an Akara.
Oh, I see.
Rashi brings this down. So she was very worried about it. Not to get into this, but this I could say. Hockey's not going to hack me up. I can say this. Rachel was what we call in Chinuch an APK. She was an autopilot kid. She never had a problem. She was inherently good. People were saying she's for Yaakov because she was a tzaddikus. Yaakov was good. They were good guys, right? So Rachel was like, she didn't have to work on herself. Leah had to work on herself. It was mentioned, right? So Leah Rakas talking to Yois because it's beautiful to Hashem. And she didn't have any eyelids because she wore eyelashes because she cried so much. That was beautiful to Hashem. But Rachel never had to work on herself. Well, it came naturally to Rachel. Then what happened was when she was childless, and all of a sudden, and she's scared she's gonna have to marry Esau, then she started to cry. Taka started to cry. And she had to work on herself for the first time, and she came through marvelously. Never mind that she gave Leah the simonim and everything else. The Meir says she hid under the bed because Yaakov would have known the difference in the voice. She hid under the bed in the room. The Meir brings us down, so the Yaakov shouldn't realize. So she was unbelievable, and that's why she was zeichet to be. Her children should be the Sidnei Shalei. So both Yisroel and Binyam.
I think the Miller points out that Leah, because of this, because she was the less preferred, like you're saying, she was less perfect than Rachel naturally.
Yeah.
She steiged, and Lamaisa, she was zeichet to be the mama.
That's right. Okay. It says by Hikidabri Yisa by Eshpetifa. Hikidabri Yisa Yayim Yayim L'Shamay L'Elias, right? So Yisa was wondering, maybe Eshpetifa Taka. She's discovered Shem Shemayim. She saw in the stars that she and Yisa were going to get married. She didn't realize it was her daughter. Her adopted daughter was Asnas, the whole thing. But Yisa is wondering, maybe she's Taka. Maybe I should marry her. So the Chedush Rim says, "Ahikidabra ela yayim yayim." He says, "Yetzitayu doesn't bug you. Yetzitayu does it once or twice. Says, do this, at least you know. You do, you don't do it. Yetzihar comes every day. Ahikidabra ela yayim yayim. Is the Yetzihar talking?
What's the preferred chinuch method? To bug every day or to just say once or twice?
No, not the bug every day. No. The Gemara says another interesting thing is the Gemara says that if something is hard to do, that's the type. Something easy to do, that's the right? So like it says by Rus, it says when Nomi Samater ki misametzes he lechti tavatach tavoda be'edah. When she saw it's hard for Rus to walk, she said, "Oh, this lady means it. If it's hard for her, it means it's yet to type. Let's accept it." It's hard to do a Maisa Tayyib, that's the Tayyib. When it's easy to do something, then if it's too easy, like I'm going to marry Ish Patifar, I'm going to Lishma, something doesn't pop up. That's what the Gruff says. It says by Sarah Mashkim and Yosef. It says Vayiashev v'hinam zeifim. They were angry, upset. So what does he say to them? Madu plechem roim hayoim. He said 4 words to them. 4 words, right? And those 4 words built Klal Yisrael. Because by saying that, he interprets a dream for them. He gets out of jail. He becomes second to the king. Klal Yisrael comes out to the sun. They become a nation. For 4 words. Unbelievable.
Who said this? Who's
I don't know. I saw it somewhere. The Idach Gisa, I want to tell you.
What's the lesson? You're saying that he was concerned about them?
Yeah.
Ah.
He says, well, what is it? Badu plech? Who cares?
They could have ignored them.
They're in prison. Like, who cares? So they're angry. So what? I see you're not chipper today. You know, he's there 12 years. Like, it's unbelievable that he said this and he felt for them. I'm telling you a story about 4 words. I'll tell you another story about 3 words. And Akiva gave me this I should say, because Hanukkah is Chinuch. So, pardon me if I segue a little into Chinuch.
No,
now.
the Kachmet Sarta. We won't
Okay,
make
good. So, I spoke this week. I was in Lakewood. There's a school there called Teres Aaron. There's a school there called Shagazai. So I spoke to the Rabbi there this week. I was telling them about my experiences as a Rebbe. And I had a manal, talking about different manal that I had that I didn't know. I didn't know what to do, but I knew what not to do. Because I saw from how I was treated, the things that I shouldn't do. So I remember in 1995, and the winter of 1995, I was in Montreal as a Rebbe, and I got mononucleosis. So I used to learn second Seder, but I was too schwach to learn. If you ever heard anybody got mono, it's weak, it makes you schwach. So I decided that year, I had a Haggadah Pesach that I made, that I worked on a lot of nice Divrei Torah. I decided I'm going to computerize Haggadah Pesach. I think back to 1995. Shlomi, you're a computer man. I think back.
Windows 3.1.
No, no,
Windows
so-
95.
no, no,
Windows 95
Windows
came out.
95 just
You didn't
came
have
out.
Windows 95.
But the Hebrew didn't have daf yet. You had to type everything backwards. Okay? So I typed the whole Haggadah Pesach backwards, including all my 200 Divrei Torah. And I put on a color cover, which at that time was like, wow, you know, it just come out, you can make a color cover. And I worked on this thing for 6 months. It was my magnus opus, like they say, okay? I brought it to school. I put it on my Manal's desk. I said, he flips through it, he goes back and he goes, it's too big. You should have made it smaller, it's too big. I came home and told my wife, it's too big. 3 words and we're gone till 6 months of work. So now when a Rebbe comes to me with his booklet for Shana, for Sukkot, Hanukkah, wow! How long did it take you? You know, because I remember how it felt.
You have to go through that,
That's right,
sorrow.
that's right. Okay, so we deal a lot with, I was at a seminar yesterday talking about ADHD, and not really ADHD, it's something else. It's executive functioning, it's developmental, whatever. I'm not going to bore you with that. But we see kids who are impulsive today. Impulsivity has been around for a long time. It's actually a svarnai in this week's parsha. Then it says, so what was that solo that he did? So the Sforni said, "B'minias ha'pa'ula ha'pasaimus." I'll say those words again. B'minias ha'pa'ula ha'pasaimus. By holding back from ha'pa'ula ha'pasaimus, which is an impulsive move. Asher l'pa'amim yipol tzara kamoyu. That Reuven said to him, Rabbi Sai, don't do this. I was there. My father put his bed by Billah, and I was pachas kamayim, and I moved the bed into Leis. I was tova el bainimi, right? And what happened to me? Al taisa. I'm not going to get the b'chayr, the kun, and the malchus. He said to them, think before you do something. Don't be impulsive. We have impulsivity in the Torah. When we want Talmidim
On
to,
the other hand, if I may, it
Yeah.
says also Vayoratz, there is time to do things with alacrity,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So there's
yeah.
difference between Zrizin and Zarzin.
100%. And these people that are impulsive, they do a lot of good things also, but sometimes they don't think things through. It can be a shtickle kilter, you know. We want children to replicate what they're doing. We want them to do things again. what do we do? A kid comes home and he shows us a test. That he got 100 on the test. We say, wow, good job. That's great, you know. But Rabbi calls up and says, my Talmud is such a good boy. I love having him in class. That's very nice. But that's generalistic. That's not specific. We want to give what we call pointed praise specific. Where do we see this Indian of giving specific praise? Boyas comes to Rush in the field and says, Rush, wow, I heard about you. Right, the whole thing. So Rush says to Boyas, I'm from Maya. What are you being so nice to me? So he said, no, who got me everything you did, 4 things, the whole Maisa, Yisroel Moshe, right? So she says to Boyaz, you know, you comfort me. So the Malbim wonders, why does it say Em Sachein, I will find favor? It should say, wow, thank you for telling me that. The Malbim says, and I'll read the Lashon. He says, after he told her, Madua Matzachein Ve'einav, almost she said, if you tell the kid, or whoever you're telling, why you like what they did, you tell them specifically, I like this thing that you did, we'll do it again. That's really what we want. We want them to replicate what we're doing. So instead of giving generalistic praise, give pointed and specific praise.
If somebody comes home with a good mark on a test, and it's happened in my house on occasion.
On occasion.
So what do you praise? The effort? You praise the result?
You praise the effort. You don't praise the result, you praise the effort. Wow, you put so much time into this.
I did it. I studied very quickly, and I.
Wow, you're so smart. Wow.
So then now you're praising their smartness, not the effort.
So I think the effort is the most important thing. Okay. You gotta act out your teaching, Rabbi say. When you teach, you gotta act it out. You can't just teach and expect the kid to get it. You gotta act it out. Where do we see this? There's a general, his name was Yayev. There was Yayev and there was Avner. We're not going through the whole thing. Avner killed Yaev's brother Asal, so he was a Gael Adam, and he wanted to kill Yayev. He wanted to kill Avner. So he meets, especially Dovid made Avner the general, and he was mad at him. So he meets Avner and he says, Avner, I have a shaila and halacha. How does a gidemes do chalitza? Gidemes is a lady Nebuch who's born with her hands and feet. How does she do chalitza? Well, because you sponsored today's thing, can I put you on the spot? How does a gidemes do chalitza? She has to pull off the brother-in-law's shoe. How could she physically do it? You tell me where she could.
No, she does it with her mouth.
Does it with her mouth, exactly. So Avner says she does it with her mouth. And he bends down, he shows Yayev how to do it with the mouth. Yayev takes the sword, goes like this to him in the Chaimish.
Right, doesn't take the sword out of the left side.
No, that was not muscle. This is
muscle.
Avner. He sticks him with the sword, right? I should tell you, by the way, there's a Yaakov Shemaini in Yirmiyah. I found this. It says, when this happened, Avner was a brute of a man. He was huge. He jumped on Yayev with his last remaining strength, and he was going to kill him. So people were there, and they said, "Stop! If you kill Yayev, who's going to protect us from the Plishtim?" So in an unbelievable Ma'aseh Tzidkus, he let go, and he fell to his death, and he let him go. Unbelievable.
If a person doesn't have a right arm or a left arm, he can fill it on his feet.
You're asking a good shaila. I don't know. But anyway, you hear the shaila is like this: why did Avner have to act out how you do it? It's obvious. You pull with your. The Torah says it was possible to Yoav and Avner. When you say something, you act it out. So Yoav knew that Avner was going to act out. He was ready with the sword to kill him. It's unbelievable. By the way, this is what I just told you. This is Rabbi Kleiner, Shmuel Aaron Kleiner's chat, saying over Mishpay. It's an unbelievable lie that when you teach, you have to act out teaching. I went crazy when I heard this. Okay, now I'm going to tell you.
God, you got a few more minutes.
Okay. Checking for understanding. Think back when you were a bacher. Think back, you go to a shir. You come late to the shir, right? I'm not looking. You come late to the shir and you missed, you learned the sugya tzreiris, and those pebbles and those chatzinezek, told the regal, and the Rebbe keeps on saying tzreiris, and you missed it. And loya barshal name, but you're not going to ask, you're not going to fool out of yourself in front of the whole shir. He's not saying, this ever happened to you? It's happened to me. You missed, the Rav said, I got the Shabbos, I got the Drasha. You missed, you dribbled for a minute, you missed it. So the Rebbe's got to stop and he's got to check to see, are his constituents with him? Hold on a second. Okay, does everybody know what Tzeh is? Write down on a piece of paper what Tzeh is. And Rebbe's got to check. Rabbi, do not do this. They have to do this. If you're saying a shir, you got to make sure that the Engel was with him. How do you know you have to check for understanding? So there's a Gemara in Bava Basra, Chafal, that says, Achlekes between Rav Dimi and Rava. Let's say you have two Rabbi you want to hire. One is Goris for like Dayak. That means he learns a lot, but he doesn't make sure that the kids really understand everything. And one is Dayak for like Goris. I had a Rebbe like this. He was Dayak for like Goris. I wanted to learn 5 Parshas. He learned 1, but boy, that Parsha, these kids knew in their sleep. It was amazing. So who do you hire? So Rava says you hire the Rebbe that's Goris for like Dayak. Okay, so I'll make mistakes. It's Shabeshta, the male Nafka. When the kid gets older, he'll figure out the mistakes. Dimi and Minadar says no. You hire the Rebbe that's Dayak like Goris, Shabeshta, even the Olo, famous thing, right? You know how it is, you thought a certain thing when you were a kid, and just like, even now, you think the same thing, so wow, I never knew that, right? Shabeshta, even the Olo. Like one says, again, our friend Yair Ben Tzvir. Yair Ben Tzvir is told by Dovid HaMelech, go and kill Amalek. So he goes and he kills 12,000 Amalekim, comes back to Dovid all proud of himself. Oh, I do what you said. So who'd you kill? He said, I killed the men. He said, what do you mean you killed the men? Why did you kill the ladies and the children? Why only the men? He says, what do you mean? It says, Timcha as Zachar Amalek. He says, what? Timcha as Zachar Amalek. Yair couldn't believe it. Yair goes to his Rebbe, his Cheder Rebbe, and he says, what is it? He says, Timcha, what did you teach me? He says, I taught you Timcha as Zachar Amalek, but I didn't check to see that you really knew it. Dr. Gemara, Shokol Safsiri, he took a sword and he killed him according to one shot. He said, You're Isa Melechas Hashem Ramiyah. Finish the Gemara. Isa Melechas Hashem Ramiyah. You acted deceitfully. He killed him. Check for understanding what I say. Finish the Gemara.
I think you have had some anger issues here. You've killed 2 people.
Come out. Yeah. And the pshat I just told you now is, the Pashut pshat is that he told them Zachar. Well, he didn't go to show Pasha Zachar. Like, it doesn't make sense. So Taisus brings on Taisus Rid. He told him Zecher, but he didn't check to make sure he understood that it was Zecher. He didn't. So Yair thought it was Zachar. Right?
Yeah, but why didn't Dovid HaMelech also specify about the mitzvah? If Dovid HaMelech had to give it to.
He knew him.
Come on, yeah. Okay.
You tell your Rabbi,
That's another lesson.
Well, what?
you tell your Rabbi, your doctor to make sure the kids know?
We have a.
Because if you do you tell them the consequence if they're not?
I told him the Gemara. I told him I'm gonna take a sword and kill you, but you know.
They get the hint.
Yeah. Okay, so I had more to say, but okay,
Time for one more? Everyone votes one more?
I got one cute story and I got one more. Okay, one more. I'm gonna tell you. If you have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, where do you see this in the Torah, in Tanakh? I just want to tell you about trust.
PTSD.
I want to tell you about post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't know how to swim out of Yemen. I go in the water, I can't swim. When I was a kid, my parents were good people and they gave me swimming lessons. I don't know if you remember then there was guppy, there was tadpole, and there was guppy, fish, and there was minnow. I got up to whatever, and then it came time for me to take a deep water test to learn how to swim. And what did the guy do? He threw me in the deep end, and I almost drowned. And I had post-traumatic stress disorder. I was there. I'm scared of the water, right? I remember, and you'll remember this. Akiva and I had a Rebbe who was a wonderful person, but he didn't understand that children were learning disabled. And without going into detail, because I don't want you to guess who it is. Okay, so forget it. I'm not going to say it now. Okay, but just to say, people that went through this experience tell me, and they're my age, they're our age. Every time they open the Gemara, they hear the Rebbe being mavazed them. Post-traumatic stress disorder. So where do you see this? Where do you see this in this Rebbe, but I have to say this Rebbe, he come in the morning, he said, okay, got some with chavisis. Come in 8:30 in the morning, got some with chavisis. 2 hours later, he shows up again. I used to play chess with Rabbi Klatsky all the time. Remember that?
Yeah, sure.
Beat me every time. He was a good player. We'd run around, we'd play games, we'd do this, we'd go downstairs. Don't ask what we did. So he'd come back and he'd make Ashen Blot if you didn't know the mark. He'd come back, it was hard to understand. He spoke only Yiddish. Remember those Yortzeit glasses? The 48-hour glasses? When you finish using it, what do you do with it? Use it as a coffee cup. So it was his coffee cup. And he'd bring in, you remember this? He'd bring in the coffee and he put the sugar cubes between his teeth. So afterwards it was hard to understand. When he did that, it was impossible. And if you didn't know what he was saying, he'd go crazy. Like, I'm telling you, I'm still like, wow. Anyway, let me just tell you about this. So there was Chavakuk Hanavi. Who is Chavakuk? Where does Chavakuk comes from? The Shunamis, Elisha was B'chai Mason, her son, that was Chavakuk, right? He's called Chavakuk, why 2 cups? Because one time his mother says, Ad Chavekas Bein, and then the second time Elisha was B'chai Mason, right? So it says, Tfilah Chavakuk, Anavi Ashigan. It's fact the Zayar and Bishalach. Why does it say Tfilah or Chavakuk? It doesn't say it says Chazayin by Yeshaya. It says Divrei. What's the Tfilah? So the Zayar says because it says in we learned this Haftarah in the second day Shavuos. Hashem Shamati Shemacha Yoresi. What's your fader? So the Zayar is Masber because when Chavakuk, the kid who died, and when Elisha was B'chai Mason him, every time he got Nevuah, he came back to when he died. Because when you get Nevuah, you're like in a trance, you feel like you're dying. So every time he got Nevuah, he was afraid because he was taken back to the time when he really died. And Elisha was B'chai Mason. Isn't that unbelievable?
And he was a kid. He was only 3 years old
Yeah,
then.
whatever. 6 years old, whatever.
6 years old.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Let me just finish off with a.
So this is the PTSD you're saying that.
The Zohar says, and the Zohar says it's like a person who was bitten by a dog. Every time he hears the dog bark, he gets scared.
Well, is Yaakov not willing to send the other brothers also not PTSD? He lost Yosef and now he takes Shimon.
Yeah.
The Karo sign.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, good. That's in the Torah. I'm telling you not. You told me the Torah. Let me just finish off with a cute story. We talk about disconnect. Reuben Feinstein, I heard him say over, he was speaking and he said that boys came to him, like 11 or 12-year-old boys came to him, they were arguing. Remember that thing called the Walkman? You know what a Walkman is? Remember?
Let me talk to you about the Walkman.
Remember Walkman, remember? So you don't know what Walkman is, do you? You do? Yeah. So anyway, so the kid, so Reuben gave it to Shimon and Shimon broke it. So he said, you want me anything? No, he said, I don't know you anything. So they went to Reuben. And Reuben said to the kid, I understand. What are you learning? He said, I'm learning a mafti. What are the Arba Shem? He says, Shemasachar, Shemachidam, Tzeicher, and Sheil. What's the difference? He's Chayiv Kol Nashallah, he's Chayiv Neitzel. So you just told me what the halakha is. What are you asking me? He said, there's a disconnect. Right? And we have the same thing. We teach Rabbi Diktuk in our school. Not tips, we teach children Diktuk. Right? We teach children Diktuk. Yeah, it's 40 stuff, exactly. But we teach them Diktuk, but we learn it in a sefer called the Shena Torah. When they have to transfer it into the Chumash, can't do it. So the eighth is to teach them in the psukim, like the word Vayidabra, harmless word, Vayidabra, right? Dabra is the Shevish. Yidabra, he will speak. That's a Yura Esan, a verb. Va is the Vava Hipoch. It changed the tense from Yidabra, he will speak, to Vayidabra, and he spoke. I tell the boys, I'm from Poland, I can't say a W, so I was going, that's Ava. I will go, that's not, right? Anyway, but the kids don't make that connection. So just to end off with a cute story, there was an Ola Chadash. I said the story over, you heard it, I apologize. There's an Ola Chadash who moved to Petach Tikva. And he's in his backyard, he's looking, he has a beautiful orange tree, he's looking, wow, Hashem's been so good to him. And all of a sudden, at the corner of his eye, sees his Chiloni neighbor jump the fence, pulls out a pocket knife, walks over to the tree, cuts off an orange, starts eating. Can't control himself. He goes to the guy and says, Adoni, ma toseh, katuv b'Torah lo tikdom, ma toseh. So the Israeli looks at him and says, ma na'im liot ba'aretz, lachot tapuzim v'lishmor divrei Torah. Back, Rabbi say.
Yeah, wow. Out of the park, fantastic.
Very good.
We're Shabbos, we're seeking, I'm laying, we're seeking.
Are you really?
Calls away, I understand that you're going.
Oh, wow. We started
Davening downstairs.
6:30.
I didn't, they start here, I only do it here, no?
Not too late, yeah.
No, because what time are they davening now? 7?
Probably 7:15.
You gonna be there?
No.
You down?
I don't
No,
think.
you're
I
gonna
will.
daven downstairs.
I've heard you like before, though. It's beautiful.
Gonna be,